If someone asked me what sound I associate with a new life, I'd say a power drill at 7 in the morning. Not romance, not sunrises, not the smell of fresh bread. A drill. Mine. And apparently my mortal enemies as well. I moved to Brooklyn 32 hours ago. The spackle on my walls wasn't even dry yet, and I was already officially the worst thing that had happened to the person living above me. "Hey, what do you have down there, a jet engine?" A man's voice roared from the floor above, right as I, standing on a ladder, tried to screw in a light bulb that kept dodging me like it was alive. I froze, holding the bulb over my head. "No, I'm just trying to turn on the light so I can see what exactly I'm destroying," I yelled back. Silence. And then a bang on the pipe. Not angry, more theatrical. That's how I met Anthony. Well, his myth, at least. I still had no idea what he looked like, but I could picture him perfectly. A man who yells at his neighbors at 7 a.m.? Definitely a morning monster. Angry, overly organized, perfect posture, the type who schedules his emotional breakdowns for 2:30 p.m. sharp. I turned the vacuum cleaner back on. I needed to clean at least something. The stupid thing sounded like it was preparing for takeoff. And in the next second, boom. The vacuum sucked in the edge of the plastic tarp. The tarp yanked down a bucket of paint. The paint went flying, and I went flying with it. A thunderclap from above. "Your own personal factory down there?" A voice boomed from the ceiling. "It was an accident," I yelled back, sitting in a puddle of white paint like I was auditioning to be a ghost. Uh-huh, very convincing. And that's how our war began. I slammed my door. He slammed his harder. I pretended I couldn't hear his shouting. He pretended he couldn't hear my power drill, though he absolutely could. I'm pretty sure the pigeons on the roof could too. In moments of special irritation, I even imagined him stomping around on purpose, trying to teach me a lesson. But honestly, there was something weird between us, like we were stuck in some kind of comedic duel and neither of us was willing to retreat first. On the third day of our Cold War, I decided enough. I needed to go upstairs at least once and tell him the noise would slow down soon. I even rehearsed the line in my head. "I'm not trying to ruin your day, I'm just trying to put mine back together." But the moment I stepped into the hallway, he burst out of his apartment. The same guy. Dark hair, sleeves of his hoodie pushed up, dust on his cheeks, and in his hand a drill that sounded like he'd been torturing the wall with it 2 seconds earlier. I froze. So did he. "Were you coming up here to yell at me?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "And were you coming down to apologize?" I shot back. He smirked. Just barely, with one corner of his mouth. I wasn't. Me neither. The next day, I stepped into the elevator. The doors began to close, and right then, someone shoved an arm between them, stopping the doors with a sharp jolt. Anthony. "Oh, not you," I blurted. "Mutual feeling," he said calmly, pressing the button for the 7th floor. The doors slid shut. The elevator shuddered, and then it stopped. The lights flickered. A low hum filled the space. "Oh no," I said. "Oh yes," he replied. And we froze in the tight, metallic box, with no escape and no walls to scream through, just the two of us, and a silence that suddenly felt a little too honest. If there were a list of people you should never get stuck in an elevator with, Anthony would be at the very top, by a mile. I pressed the open button, then closed, then every button in a row, including one that nobody seemed to ever use. The elevator didn't respond. "Hope you're not claustrophobic," he asked, leaning his shoulder against the panel. "Hope you're not afraid of long, awkward silences," I replied, trying to appear calm, though my palms went icy in an instant. He smiled like he was about to tease me some more, but instead pulled out his phone. "No signal. 0 bars. Perfect." Don't tell me you didn't bring water or a snack. Sounds like you're talking about yourself. By the way, I have a granola bar. Oh, well, that saves me then. I exhaled, reached into my backpack, but instead of a granola bar, I pulled out a measuring tape, a pack of tissues, a lone screw, and a crumpled receipt. Perfect, Amanda. Just perfect, I said. Are you talking about yourself in the third person? It's a stress thing. Thanks for noticing. Seconds dragged on long enough that I started to hear my own breathing. Anthony didn't look relaxed either. His fingers slid over the metal panel, a nervous gesture but steady, precise, like it had been honed over years. Okay, he said, since we're stuck here, can we at least not fight? I wasn't fighting. You were yelling at me through the wall. That was communication. Uh-huh, aggressive communication. Not more aggressive than your pounding on the pipes. That was an emotional reaction. I snorted. He smiled a little too. And for the first time in 3 days of our little war, something shifted. Not a wall, no, more like a crack in it. Listen, he suddenly said, sitting down on the floor with his back against the wall. Let's be honest. Why are you doing renovations? Don't say, because I want to. That's not an answer. I hesitated for a moment. I didn't want to seem weak, but we were in a locked metal cube, and there was no avoiding honesty. I broke up with my boyfriend. We lived together in Miami, and I swallowed. Everything fell apart. I decided to start over. Literally. New city, new walls, a new space. To put myself back together. He listened more attentively than anyone had in months. No sarcasm, no teasing. Renovation is a good way to move on, he said softly. And you? Why did you have to drill into my nervous system? I'm starting over too. After what? After a failed business. After burnout. After realizing I'd been working nonstop without noticing where I was going. And when I finally stopped, I found myself in the middle of an empty life. And now, you're building too. Yeah, in my own way. We were silent, not awkward, not tense, pleasant for the first time. You know, I said, I think we might not hate each other if we'd met under different circumstances. And how would you have liked to meet? Well, definitely not because of a falling bucket of paint. I thought white suited you. Very funny. I try. And then the elevator jolted. I grabbed the wall. Anthony snapped upright, instinctively catching my elbow to steady me. Too naturally, somehow. The lights flickered. The motor rumbled. Guess it's starting up, I whispered. Guess so. We were standing too close. His hand still held my elbow, and for the first time, I didn't want him to let go. But the elevator jerked, again, and then stopped. Oh no, I said. Oh yes, he sighed. Looks like we're here a while longer. And now the silence between us was completely different. The elevator was quiet in that confident way, as if deliberately saying, okay, you two, figure it out. And somehow, we really were figuring it out. Anthony was still too close. I could feel his breath. He seemed to realize it too, slowly letting go of my elbow, but his gaze didn't break, as if studying. So, what do we do now? I whispered. Hopefully we don't panic, because I'd look very unprofessional right now. And you're a professional standing in elevators? Professional non-panicker. It's a special skill. Doesn't show. Because you're here. It sounded too sincere, too direct, like he'd said more than he intended. I looked away to gather my thoughts for even a second, when suddenly there was a short, sharp crack. The elevator seemed to drop a few inches. I let out a squeak, clutching the handrail. Anthony pulled me toward him. No instinct, no hesitation, just did it. It's okay, he said in a low voice, as if trying to convince not just me, but the elevator too. We're not falling. It's just some technical stuff. Technical stuff? Seriously? Better than we're dying, right? I buried my forehead against his shoulder and laughed. The laugh came out nervous, sharp, but then it became real. Anthony laughed too, and his laughter was so open, so unexpectedly warm, that I forgot we were still trapped. Okay, I said, stepping back a little. Let's make a deal. If we die in here, at least we'll be honest. More honest than when you said you didn't hear me pounding on the pipes? That was a creative choice. Or when I pretended not to hear your drill. You definitely heard it. Unfortunately, we laughed a little more, and then the silence returned. But it no longer felt tight. It expanded, like it was giving space for something new. Amanda, yes? I think we're alike. What? You mean we both like tearing down walls? That too, but I mean something else. We both ran from what was suffocating us. We both create chaos in our own apartments. And he paused. And we both found someone who drives us crazy, but somehow seems to understand. You're saying we're compatible as two broken tools? Almost romantic, he smiled. I opened my mouth to make a joke, but suddenly a sharp rumble echoed and the elevator moved. Slowly but steadily, as if sighing, "All right, that's enough intensity from you." The doors opened on the third floor. In the dark hallway stood an old technician with a flashlight. "Finally," he grumbled. "I told you that motor needed replacing." But I barely heard him. Anthony lightly touched my elbow, letting me go ahead. I stepped out, he followed, and we hung there, not knowing what came next. "Well," I said. "Well," he repeated. "Shall we, go back to arguing?" "We could," he raised an eyebrow, "but I'd rather suggest a truce. A temporary one? Why not a long-term one?" Something warm passed between us, like an electric current. After climbing the stairs to our apartments, we stood in front of the doors. I was on the 6th floor, he was on the 7th, a whole floor apart, but no distance at all in how we felt. "Listen," he said, suddenly uncertain. "If you want, I can help you hang that light fixture tomorrow, the one you were trying to screw in when you yelled at me." I was yelling constructively. "I know. I liked it." I smiled. "Okay, tomorrow, light fixture." "Tomorrow," he repeated. "But for now, don't turn on the drill. And you don't hit the pipes. Deal." I was about to go inside, but stopped. "Anthony, yeah? I'm glad we got stuck together." His smile was slow, genuine, beautiful in the simplest way. "Me too, Amanda. Even despite the paint? Especially because of it." And the noise? The noise no longer annoyed me. It had become the background music of a new beginning, and somehow, it seemed, we were both finally ready to start building.